One of the biggest things that I hear from business owners is that I am having trouble making sales. So I'll go to their website and they'll have no call to action buttons on their homepage, and they're directing everyone to the homepage. And it's like, well, how do you expect people to buy things if you're not giving them the opportunity to buy things?
All right, we are live. It's so good to have you, and thank you so much for listening. I'm excited about today's show, but before we move forward, I need you to leave us a review. Now, you might be ignoring me, probably more than likely the vast majority, hundreds and hundreds of you are ignoring this right now, but I want you to stop ignoring me and go spend 3 seconds and just leave a 5-star review. It helps us out so much. And I'm excited today because I have my friend Megan here. We've actually done several TikTok lives together. I've interacted with her online, and she is a genius when it comes to running her agency and building websites for people. And the thing I like most about Megan is she's very practical in her approach of what are you trying to accomplish. And really, if I was going to give you a high level view of what I think your business is that you help people actually get websites that are going to do what they want them to do, not just make a pretty website, but actually perform and generate customers or subscribers or whatever they're looking for. What did I get right on that, Megan? What did I get wrong, and what did I maybe leave out?
Yeah, absolutely. So I really do have a strategic approach when it comes to building websites, building out businesses' branding, as well as when it comes to their marketing strategy. So you pretty much nailed it. I mean, I love helping out my clients with like building their websites, they're building out their branding, making sure that everything is speaking to that target audience as authentically as possible.
Yeah. So walk me through how did you get into this? How did you get into actually starting your own company and helping businesses with this?
Oh man, so I come from a long background in the music industry. So I've always had a creative role, basically helping out artists, helping out record labels, different ticketing sites, and that kind of thing. I actually used to work at Live Nation for a bit. Then out here in Los Angeles, I switched over to a radio station, KCRW Radio, and then was the creative director at a few music venues here in Los Angeles. And so I've always kind of been in the mix when it comes to like design and kind of like creative direction. So yeah, it's always just been a fun thing for me. I've always been interested in art growing up, and like have always like, I feel like when I got my start, my quote unquote start in web design was like back when MySpace was like a big thing, and I was like customizing like band pages for friends and like stuff like that. That's where I like really started to kind of dig into like, ooh, I can like make this like, you know, all branded for this band, and like really got into that. So
for all the Gen Zers out there, that's so MySpace is a social media platform, and that you could fully edit it. You could like go in and like, they should have had a seizure warning on it, right? Because this was before you couldn't really design things online very easily for yourself. And so people would go in there and they'd have sparkling things and leprechauns jumping across the page, and you could put music. I remember you'd land on someone's page and it would just start blaring music at you. Like you had all these options that you could go in and customize it. So how did you walk me through, how did you make that jump though? Because I know you're just like, yeah, and then I jumped over here, but it's kind of a scary thing. And I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs that are like, I want to do it, but it is a scary thing to kind of jump into that entrepreneur world. Did you go slow? Did you go fast? How did you end up like owning your own business?
So I wound up getting, strangely enough, a bunch of targeted ads for one of my old mentors, Mike Shreve, who was teaching essentially like a course on like how to become an entrepreneur, like all of the different revenue sources that you can kind of drum up, be it like passive income, you could make a course, and kind of like going through all of these different methods. And so the moment that I knew that I was going to make that jump I was finding myself on my lunch breaks at my actual job, like diving into this course and like trying to figure out as much as I could and learn as much as I could about like how to make this thing work. And I was trying to implement those things in like my off hours. So I was like coming home and basically putting together some of these materials, and like, you know, one day it was just like time to jump. So it wasn't really like a smooth kind of like gradual transition for me. It was just like, I'm just going to do this and figure it out. And so I left.
And then, so what happened? Like, how'd you get your first client? How did you, like, what happened there? How did you start to build that out?
So in the beginning of my business, I was doing like a lot of cold outreach, which I don't really do much anymore at all. But cold outreach was just the thing that I turned to at that point, where I was like emailing a lot of people, like leaving my business card at a lot of like random places, coffee shops, liquor stores, like wherever. They have those like community boards outside of like a lot of places. And I was just hustling. Like I was doing everything I could to just get my name out there, telling everyone that I could in my network that I had started this thing. And then I found TikTok a few years later, and like everything kind of switched around. Basically, it went from me going out and trying to find my customers to all of my customers coming to me.
So right now, so TikTok's like your main marketing arm, how you get all your business?
It's number 2 next to referrals.
Okay. So number 1, a client says, hey, you should use Megan. She'll build you a website. And then number 2 is the people finding you on TikTok. Like did you have to figure out how to make content for that? Like walk me through your marketing plan around using TikTok.
Oh yeah, like I was still fairly new to video content when I got on TikTok. I'd done like a few Facebook lives, and if you go back and look at my old early stuff on my business page, you'll be able to find those. And like you can tell how awkward and shaky and like just not used to being on camera I was back then. But yeah, it took some testing. It definitely took some figuring out what my content style was going to be on TikTok and who I wanted to kind of serve on the platform, until I like kind of found my groove,
Yeah. And then what was like the secret sauce? Like if someone is like kind of pretend I'm at your early stages and I'm like, well, I'm kind of getting on and it's awkward. I'm making content, but it doesn't do anything. What was the secret sauce that kind of helped you turn that corner?
So it kind of feels like it makes sense right now to kind of chat about my first kind of viral-ish video, which was me basically reviewing somebody's website. So I basically put out a post being like, does anyone want feedback on their website? I'll give you put your website in the comments and I'll give you a few pointers. And so I started doing these website review videos, and one of them just took off. I think it was really like that personalized feedback that people were getting. And it was just, honestly, it's just like 2 or 3 tips that I'm giving these people, but it was the fact that I was customizing the advice just for that person, that made it really special. And like lots of people joined in being like, oh, I want you to do mine, like do mine. And so it just kind of snowballed from there.
That's great. Yeah, I've actually been on your lives before. You've done my site, and I actually changed my site. You were like, Gary, your site looks great, but I would change this, and this about it. You were really nice about it, and it was actually great advice. So I ended up tweaking it a little bit, and it definitely helped. So I think you definitely have that skill set. And people, if your website doesn't work, you are a great person to talk to. What are your... Like, how do you manage that now? I want to talk a little bit more about the business side. So if you're getting business and then 5-6 people reach out to build a website, how do you manage that? And like kind of what does your team or network look like to manage that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I just this year switched over to an application process. So I'm no longer doing free discovery calls, which has cut down on a lot of kind of weeding out of clients. So that's been great. Once people apply, if it feels like a good fit, we will have a conversation. But as far as working with team and that kind of thing, I have been really shifting my focus lately to just focus on the design part of it, because that's the part that I really love. And so I've been working with contractors to actually basically creatively direct them to build the actual thing.
So you're doing the creative layout, and then you're directing people. This is okay. Change this, change that. So you get the final product that you want.
Exactly.
And then what's your ideal client? What's your avatar person that's perfect to work with you?
I love working with creative individuals. So folks that are not afraid to kind of step outside of the box, afraid to take risks with their design. Typically folks that, are just a little bit bolder and coming from that background in the music industry, I like those creative types, collaborative kind of people.
Got it. And then do you help people, or how do you help people if someone's like, I don't know if I need to change my website. I guess it looks okay, and I don't even know if it's producing results. How do you help people through that?
Yeah. So what I would recommend for that is doing a one-on-one website review, which is a service that I offer. It's basically like an hour-long review where we jump on a Zoom call. I prepare some notes beforehand, basically, send you a few questions in advance of the call. I'll run through your website, write down all of my notes, and then go over them with you on the call, as well as answer any questions that you might have about, their website converting or design elements or any of that kind of thing.
Got it. And do you have anything like any tools that you help people with that they can use to help them with their website?
Yeah, absolutely. I have a free website checklist, then I can send you over the link for that.
Yeah,
so that you
that
can
would be
share
awesome.
it.
What is that? What is that like? Like, what does it do? How does it feel as a business owner? What am I walking through? What am I checking on?
So it's basically to position your brand as best as possible from a branding perspective, as well as from a conversion perspective. So it just goes over like a few of the most common mistakes that I've seen businesses make kind of over and over as I've done these website reviews. But yeah, it's pretty easy. It's just a checklist that you can run through.
What are some of the biggest mistakes that you're seeing out there that just like pretty much universally everybody makes, and if they just fixed it, it would easy fixes that would make a huge difference for them?
Yeah. So one of the biggest things that I hear from business owners is that I am having trouble making sales. So I'll go to their website and they'll have no call to action buttons on their homepage, and they're directing everyone to the homepage. And it's like, well, how do you expect people to buy things if you're not giving them the opportunity to buy things? It can also go the other direction too, where there's just way too many buttons on the page, and that can be confusing to the user. So it's just about finding that balance. And I think that is probably one of the number one things that I see.
I totally agree with you. In the dental industry, it's crazy how many people don't put call to actions on their site. And they're just like, no, we want our patients just to come and show up. And it's like, you're not giving up. You're literally just have a pamphlet on the website. Like, you need to have a reason or call to how you want them to come in and for what reason. And sometimes I think business owners sometimes think call to actions like cheapen their brand. Have you ever heard that before? Have you ever heard people like, how do you deal with that? Like, how do you approach that from a business standpoint?
I mean, I kind of look at it as like, you're a business. You're not like, like this is not a hobby. Like your goal is to like help your customers. And like, there's no way you can do that if you're not giving them that opportunity to kind of like take action on your offer.
Yeah, I'm the same way. And also, I don't think people look at the brand and go, oh, this is a cheap brand because you're saying, hey, give us a call, or give us a call and we're going to, do a cleaning for $100, or we have these boots are now $200, right? Like they don't know if they used to be $300, but at least you're giving them some context. So I think there's a way to like present it and still make it look nice and make it look classy. Do you help people with that? Do you help people with like their overall brand as well and tie that together?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a huge part of what I do. And when I work with branding clients, this is something that we talk about at length, getting really clear on like their target audience and really digging into the psychology of how to reach that person, whether that be through, the different visual elements in their messaging, all of that kind of good stuff.
So you're kind of setting really, I look at the website as like the central hub of all the marketing, right? So it used to be your business was the central hub of your marketing before the internet, like your sign that goes in front of your business. But now I think your website is your central hub of marketing. And it sounds like you're kind of helping them craft that so that way all of their other marketing works too. Am I getting that right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, your website is essentially like your little corner of the internet. Like that is where your customers are going to find you. That's where, if you're an e-commerce business, that's where they're going to buy things. And so making that as true to your business and cater to your customers as much as possible is so important.
What is the mistake? So I know from a lead gen standpoint, call to action, super important. But from the branding side, where business is just missing the mark over and over again?
One of the big mistakes that I see a lot of businesses make is that they aren't specific enough, like when it comes to their design choices. So like I've seen a website in the past where they were using like 5 different shades of red, for example. And so like not getting exact color codes, and like that's the kind of thing that like when you're browsing the website as a customer, it's like something just feels like a little off. Like it just does, like in most of the time, like the average person won't be able to put their finger on it, but something goes up in the brain that's like, oh, there's like a red flag here, right? Like there's something's a little off.
Yeah. And do you help with like e-commerce too?
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on that? Because I know that's a big, like for me, that's how I can relate it is it's almost like you go to a website and you're like, I want to buy this thing, and you go there and then you hit the website and you're like, no, I'm not going to buy from this site because it just feels off.
Yeah.
Is that kind of what you're talking about from the branding side? And how does that work in with e-commerce?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things at play here, right? There's the branding, there's like the actual security of the site, there's the look and feel of the website, and just like it just has to feel secure. Like customers love to feel kind of supported and secure when they are giving over their credit card information. They want to know for sure that they're going to get something in return, that that's not just some scam site, you know?
What's the best like example that you've had? You can give a name or not give a name, but what's like the best example of somebody who had a really good business but had a horrible web site and presence, and then they like turned that around and it just their business got even better?
Am I allowed to say Amazon?
No, it's somebody you've worked with, someone that like you've helped. But yeah, Amazon is one for sure.
I mean, Amazon has like the worst website, but still somehow, you know, makes bank.
It does.
Let's see. It's been a while since I've worked on some e-commerce, but like back when I was working at the venues, we worked on a huge website overhaul for multiple music venues here in Los Angeles. And yeah, I mean, it really has to come down to like making sure that everything is designed properly, everything that it makes it really easy to buy. Like the buy button is very apparent, and you know, you're serving the information that the customer needs.
Got it. So it was focusing more back on the business side. When you got started, you kind of stepped out, you took a big risk on yourself. You started to go out and just hit the pavement because that's what I did, the same thing, right? Like what else were you going to do? And then TikTok kind of came out, helped you start to grow a little bit. How do you now maintain your business? And if the creative side is super important, right? Because if you don't do that, you don't have a business. But then also maintaining the business side, the books, the marketing, all the things that you need to do to make sure to fill this side. How do you balance that right now?
So it's funny that you asked this because I just started some pretty high level business coaching. And so this is the first time that I have basically filled out, they call it like a model calendar, where basically I just kind of time block my day, like fill in like, you know, first part of the day is admin. Then I jump into client work for like the first few hours of the day. Take a break for lunch, and then jump into content creation for the rest of the day. And so really just breaking up the tasks by like for like, basically, and like figuring out like, okay, this is like my creative chunk of time, or this is my admin chunk of time, and like kind of grouping like tasks together.
That's smart. Yeah. Because a lot of times as an entrepreneur, we just run fire to fire, right? It's just like wherever the fire is. So that allows you to break up your day. Is there a reason that you put admin first, creative last? Is there?
Yeah, definitely. So, so in my business, I don't share my phone number with clients. So I make it a rule to check my email twice a day. So I check it once in the morning and then once midday. So it's basically just, you know, kind of check it in the morning to see if anything came in overnight or anything got signed off on, kind of taking kind of a state of the union for that day. And then midday is just to respond to any responses that might have come in, and et cetera. So, but other than that, like I like to try to tackle my client work early in the morning, because like you're just trying to get that most important thing done first.
Yeah.
And then, you know, diving into content creation later in the afternoon is almost like my reward, because I just love it so
you
much.
Love doing
you know what
it.
I mean?
Yep.
Yeah.
See, I'm tired in the afternoon and I'm not a natural creator. So if I put my stuff at the end of the day, then I'm like, I just don't want to do it. And I end up, so I almost have to put my content creation earlier in the morning if I'm going to be doing it, because it's not my natural state. So that's really good that you're like self-aware of that, of like, no, this is my reward at the end of the day, and I'm going to do these harder things first. And I think that's awesome. But you said something there. You said you don't give your clients your phone number. Number one, why not? Number two, how do you guys communicate?
So I mainly communicate with clients via email and through my project management system, Asana.
Hmm.
I just like to have that division between like personal and business. Maybe one day down the road, I will have a business phone, but for right now, I just have one phone. I have thought about that, and it's something that maybe will happen in the next year or so, but I just find it better and kind of like boundaries wise for me. Yeah.
So how do you do like a sales call? Walk me through if I wanted to work with you. Like, do we do Zoom together?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Got it. Okay. So I'm talking to you. It's just not through our traditional sense of phone. And you know what? I've realized there's a bunch of people in my company. I have no phone number for them. If I needed to like call them, I couldn't get a hold of them, but I have Slack, I have voice message, I can shoot them a Loom, I can shoot them an email. There's a bunch of different ways to get a hold of people. So I think that's good, setting those boundaries. How'd you learn to set those boundaries? Like what point did you say, I need to do this to protect myself?
Oh, I love talking about this because it's something that I feel like every entrepreneur has to learn this as they go. I had one set of boundaries that I pretty much set for myself when I first started my business, but boy, has that evolved as I have gone along. And like, I have just worked with people and like figured out different things that I liked and I didn't like, where like I set new boundaries like every 6 months.
So what was your
or
first
so.
boundaries when you first started? What was your boundaries? Was it nothing and I'm just happy to have someone call me?
Well, I was definitely the no phone thing was set in stone from the get go.
Wow. How?
Yeah.
Like, how did you do that?
I just stated in my contracts, like, this is the way that we're going to communicate.
But like,
through
how did
email.
that get in your brain not to give your phone number? Like, it's smart. Like, I think it's genius. But like, how did you maneuver that? Like, did you learn it from somewhere else, or was it just like, I just don't want people to call me?
I think it came from lots of jobs having my phone number and me being like, I don't want this life anymore.
So I'm building my business, and this is okay. So you were like scarred before. Maybe you had a boss or a team member that had your phone number calling you all the time. So you just said, okay, I want to build this. And this is actually really cool because when you build your business, you can kind of do whatever you want. Now, sometimes clients won't like it and sometimes they'll love it. Were you kind of scared that maybe people won't want to work with me or any of that kind of stuff? Did that pop into your head?
Oh, yeah. I mean, here's the thing, though, that it takes a while to learn is like, if you put forth your boundaries and there's a client that says like, oh, that's not going to work for me, that's probably not your ideal client, because at that point, like if they push those boundaries, if they say, hey, I really need your phone number, we need to be in touch via text or whatever, that to me is just like, it becomes like a respect issue at that point. Like it's kind of crossing the line when it comes to respect.
Got it. Okay. And then what were some other rules that you kind of laid out that probably other entrepreneurs it'd be useful for them to learn?
Let me think about that. I don't know off the top of my head. I mean, I feel the phone thing is such a big thing for me, and it keeps, a good, healthy boundary between us. I think like communication is also like a really big thing. So that's something that I put in my contract. So like, just an expectation of like, I expect to hear back from you and you will hear back from me within a business day. Or like that can be set however you wish, but just setting that expectation up front is super helpful.
I totally agree. Yeah, that's something that is one of our core values is over communication, especially being remote with a bunch of people. It's like, okay, you got to, first of all, we have to respect each other. We need to respond. Yeah. You can't ghost me or I ghost you. It's hard to build a remote business that way. And then number two is like, we need the clients to feel like we're listening and hearing them. So I like that you set the boundary of like, phone isn't an option to reach me, but here's my other options, and I'm going to be communicating with you. Like I'm going to get back to you by this time, and I need you to get back to me. And that's one of the areas that we struggle, where we'll have clients. So we'll have like a CEO come on and they'll be like, hey, we need new marketing and we got 10 locations and we need all this stuff built out. And then we get the sale done, and then they pass it to somebody on their team. And then the person on their team won't communicate with us, or they won't give us the information they need. And then when we don't hit the expectation of the CEO, they're mad at us, right? Because of course we get blamed because we're the marketing agency. It's super easy to blame us. So then that expectation is like different, right? It's like layered, and people aren't participating in the right way. And so I think that's huge that you're calling that out up front, and then at the same time building that life that you want. Do you think that how do you see that like morphing and changing over time? Is this something that you're like growing and adding on to from a more clients, or do you kind of have all the clients you want and now it's just maintaining the life that you enjoy living?
So I have a good client roster right now, but my focus as of lately has been to really build out some passive income. So I'm really been focusing my energy there in my business right now. So like basically Q3 and Q4, I'm going to be really ramping up, like building those assets, putting them up for sale. I'm working on some website templates right now. So like, figuring out how that's all going to play out, figuring out how to market those items and kind of build that into my offering.
So have something like this would be to like teach people how to build their own websites, or teach people like what would be the offering on those?
So it's basically just a website template. So you can plug it into your actual website and then customize it as you need to. Obviously, it's going to come with some training on like how to customize the different pieces. But yeah, it should be fairly plug and play for businesses. So it'll be like a low cost alternative to actually hiring somebody like me.
So it's like a downsell, right? So it's like, hey, it's going to be X amount of dollars to work with Megan, and they're like, well, we don't really have that right now, or we don't know if that's the right option for us. Well, here's something that would be better. And then you said there was some like some coaching in between that as well. What is that? How does that work?
Yeah, definitely. So I have basically two sides of the coaching part of my business. So I have marketing coaching, primarily for TikTok. And then I have website coaching, which is the thing that we talked about earlier, kind of just giving people feedback on their websites.
That's great. Is there anything else that I forgot to ask you, or that you think it would be valuable for two groups? So either one, the agency owner that's thinking about starting or is started, or somebody who's like a business owner or a marketing agency that don't have their website figured out yet.
I don't think so on like the kind of like website branding side of things, but like only other thing that's coming to mind that has been kind of a big part of my journey has been like mindset. And like figuring out like, how to trust myself and how to like really, believe that this thing is going to work, because I feel like that's like half the battle.
Totally agree. I don't know. It's like the old saying, if you don't believe that you're going to win, then you're right. It's like if you're going into the game and you're like, we're going to lose, you're going to lose. Like that's the way that it works. And I think business is the same way. You have to really believe in yourself and believe that you have the capability to figure it out. And I think a lot of that negative talk of like, I stink and I'm going to lose and all that stuff, it's just true. Really, you're telling yourself what you're going to do. How did you, at what point did you really start figuring that mindset stuff out? I know for me, it took me a long time to get in the right place with that. And I still have to talk myself up all the time. So at what point did you realize that was a big part of being successful?
I mean, I think at some point I just got tired of hearing it from myself. And it was just like, something needs to change, because like, I felt like I truly was holding myself back. And I think like a big part of my transformation kind of in entrepreneurship was getting on TikTok and was getting very visible to a lot of people. It just forced me to kind of like get comfortable with myself like really fast, because as you know, like lots of people will come out in the comments and say whatever they want to, like, and it's like, oh, like after a while, after so many people have said like, oh, like, you have this or you're that, or like whatever. It's just like, okay, you could kind of become numb to like that criticism after a while. Yeah.
And it's interesting too, because putting yourself out there, everybody says this, well, I don't care what other people think. That's usually not true, right? So I used to say stuff like that, like, I don't care what people think. When you start posting online, you're like, well, what are people going to think? What are they going to say? And like, I literally had to get to the place, because I made a challenge with myself. I said, I'm going to go on TikTok and I'm going to post and I'm going to figure it out. And I'm not going to ask for help. I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to figure it out on my own. I'm going to see if I can grow this. And I said, I just made a rule. I'm going to post 3 times a day. And I'd be sitting there and I'd be like, what am I going to post about? And what are these people going to think? And what are they going to say? And then I literally had to train myself like, no, I don't care. if they think it's stupid, if they think it's dumb, if they think I'm dumb, I have to not care. And you kind of have to work through that mentally. And I think that's kind of a good thing from a business standpoint, to get to that place where you're like, no, I don't. Yeah, I posted that thing. I don't care. I moved on to the next thing. Oh, that's the old thing that I said yesterday. Now I'm on to the new thing. Did you kind of go through that too when you started posting, or was it a little bit different?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think like sometimes, that will pop up in like moments of weakness still, right? But like it becomes less and less the more that you get on camera, the more that you just keep putting yourself out there. It's like going to the gym, right? Like
Yeah.
it's just, nobody's strong their first day that they go to the gym, but like, if you do it 6 months, you're going to get
You don't even know what the
better at it.
machines do the first time you go to the
Yeah.
gym, right? You're like, it's awkward, right? And so then it's like you watch people and you learn, or you get a trainer and you learn and you grow. I love that perspective. Well, Megan, this has been really, really good. I really appreciate you coming on. If someone wants to reach out to you and either get help on building their website, or get some of these different packages that you guys have coming out, or get some of the free resources, how can they reach out to you?
Yeah, so my website is megangersch.com. It's megangersch.com. I'm also Megan Gersch across social media, so you can find me there.
Yay, awesome job. Thanks so much for coming on today.
Thank you so much. This is so fun.